Hey losers, long time no see! I'm here. I am alive, barely, but I'm alive. I'm Coral. If you didn't already know that for some reason, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel. It's been a long time since I've filmed anything and I feel a little bit, I don't know, I'm like, what do I have to do? What do I do? So bear with me if I seem a little disjointed. At the beginning of the summer, I picked 3 books and I asked my friends to read them with me. And so if you're watching this, perhaps you've read this, perhaps you just are looking for a review, but this will be very spoilery because I'd like to have a nice discussion about it and be able to communicate, you know, with the people who've also read this. We can talk about it. So like, you know, there's going to be spoilers in this video, there are going to be spoilers in the comments, just so you know. And just so those of us who have read it know, like, it's okay to talk about spoilers in the comments too, because I don't know, like, if at this point you haven't read it and you don't want spoilers, like, what are you doing? Why are you here? Anyway, this is Cruel Summer by Wesley Southard. This was published in, I think, 2020? I think I get, yeah, 2020. So this is a book I picked out because it seems like it would have summer vibes, and it kind of did. It doesn't really get into the effects that summer had. Like, summer does not have an effect on the story at all, which is like kind of what I like about summer horror, is that it does, or when it does, I really like that. But this one didn't really. Now it's been about a month since I read this, so I should have filmed this book earlier, but I've been so fucking busy, I just haven't had time. So please excuse me and my rusty little brain that's been working on overdrive lately. This is the story of Patrick and his mother Melissa and Melissa's boyfriend Hoyt. Melissa and Hoyt have been together for a few years now. They live together with Melissa's son Patrick, who is, I believe, 13, just about a teenager, you know what I mean? I'm not sure if it says on the back. So he's not very old, but he's not really like a little kid anymore. And as we all know, as adults, being 13, going through your teenage years, it's a hard time anyway. And this is even harder for Patrick because his mother's boyfriend Hoyt is a real piece of shit. He's abusive. He is verbally and physically abusive to both Melissa and Patrick, although it does seem that Melissa definitely gets the brunt of it. So she's able to she kind of downplays the severity of it because it's just happening to her. And it's not as much happening to Patrick, although the verbal abuse is pretty gross in this. So Hoyt is just a piece of shit. We start out this book and they are all 3 taking a road trip together, kind of like almost across country. Like, it's quite a drive. They're going to Florida, to a place where I believe Melissa's grandparents lived at one point, so she spent a lot of time there as a, you know, growing up, and then not so much since Patrick has come along. And there's like always this thing in the back of her mind about like this being the place that Patrick's father lives, and she does not have contact with him. We come to find out that Patrick's father does not even know that Patrick exists, which is questionable. Even, I think, in my opinion, once he comes into the story, I'm like, was this ever at all necessary for the plot? Fucking no. So that's just my opinion, I guess. But I was really liking this at first. The tension between this group of people is like real thick, and you really dislike Hoyt so much. And then what happens is Hoyt has a little bit of an accident while they're on a fishing boat, and like the captain just like, he's like there, but he's sick apparently, so he doesn't see any of this at all, which is kind of weird to me. I've been fishing on the ocean once, and there was like a whole ass crew there. It wasn't just like the captain. So I don't know. And there was like other people as well. But I've only done that once. So I really don't know like what it's like on a regular ass basis, but that just seemed kind of weird to me. And then Hoyt, basically they knock him out. Hoyt tries to assault, I think, Patrick, and Melissa and Patrick together like knock him out and throw his ass overboard, and Hoyt never surfaces. So they talk to the police find this very fishy, and still like they don't arrest Melissa or anything. They're just like, you better stay here until this is cleared up. But like, you know, the officers definitely suspect her for some reason. I guess her story is a little bit fishy, but I don't know, like I'm not a fucking police officer. So this is all fine and good, right? I'm vibing with the story up until this point. And then it gets really slow, I think. The pacing is really slow. And they start... Okay, like this thing in the ocean as Hoyt is dying, like drowning, is like, ooh yeah, I feel your hatred. I like it. Do you want me to help you like seek revenge, basically? And Hoyt's like, hell yeah, I'm very angry. And so it's like this thing possesses Hoyt's body, but also kind of like transforms it into like an aquatic looking humanoid sort of thing. Kind of like maybe like a shark. I feel like it was kind of described like that later in the book. And so Melissa and Patrick start like separately and together seeing like glimpses of this weird like Hoyt fish, and also the marine life that they're seeing while they're in Florida, like stuck in Florida. They can't leave because the police said so. It's acting weird. It's acting like strangely aggressive. And so things in the ocean are behaving strangely, and you think, oh, maybe this thing that Hoyt encountered has a greater hold on, you know, the ocean, and the things in the ocean, and the things on the ocean, and the happenings of the ocean. So at that point, basically, Melissa looks up Patrick's father. What's his name? Jordan. And they have this awkward meeting where Melissa tells Jordan about Patrick, and then they have an even more awkward meeting where Melissa is just like, hey Patrick, let's go see my friend Jordan. And Patrick's like too smart for that shit, and he's like, something's weird here, you know? And so eventually it comes out that like Jordan is Patrick's dad. Jordan's reaction to this is very strange. Like at first he's like, what the heck? And then he's like, oh, that's okay. Like I can get into this, which is just so strange. Like someone showed up at my door and was like, hey, guess what? You have a secret 13-year-old child. I would be like, you know, this is weird. I might, you know, ask to have some sort of real confirmation that I'm this child's father before like I meet this child and shit like that. But that's just me, maybe. So that whole relationship is kind of weird. And also, it does not feel necessary at all for the rest of the plot. And we spend a lot of time focusing on this relationship between Jordan and Patrick and Jordan and Melissa. But I think the only thing that like makes this sort of important is that Jordan is a painter. He's really into mythology, and he tells Patrick the story of this god in the ocean called Cetus. That's what it was. And basically we're led to believe that Cetus, I don't know, there's this whole story with like Cetus clamoring for the love of this woman, and so it's like Cetus is Hoyt, and Cetus Hoyt thinks that Melissa is this woman, some other goddess type name, but he like starts calling her that. So he's not really Hoyt. It's just like Hoyt's body being controlled by Cetus. Andromeda, that's what it was. So he's calling her like Andromeda, and like shit like that. And it's just, it lost me. It lost me when Hoyt became a fish, a Cetus Hoyt fish, and was convinced that Melissa was Andromeda, and I don't know. So, you know, we're nearing kind of the end of the story now, and Cetus Hoyt has abducted Patrick. He's like pulling him behind a boat, but like the boat is just somehow being controlled by Cetus without anything physically. It's like telepathically, it's able to, telekinetically, it's able to like move this boat. And so like Patrick's being pulled behind this fucking like speedboat, which is so strange. He doesn't drown, which is like, that's the part to me that's like, how does he not drown? Because like for minutes and minutes and minutes, like his parents know that this is happening and they're not able to save him, but he's just like being pulled behind this boat. And probably, I think like at the end they talk about maybe like a hip being dislocated or something like that. But he's like alive, which is weird. So they're able to rescue Patrick, and then they have like this standoff with Hoyt, Cetus, Sharky Hoyt, and at that point like the cops are involved in it because like they pull Melissa over. They're like, you're not supposed to leave while she's trying to rescue Patrick, and she tells them that, you know, her son's being pulled by this boat, and so they're like, oh, we gotta save him. So they save him, and yeah, so now like the standoff, like I said, and like the police are also involved, and they're able to kill Hoyt, the Cetus fish, and that's it. That's it. Patrick survives, Cetus Hoyt is defeated, and I guess Jordan just like decides he's gonna become a father now. And so it's a little heartwarming end to this story that unfortunately like I didn't love a bunch, as you might be able to tell from my review of it and my discussion of it. Like, I don't know, it started out so nice. Oh yeah, I bookmarked, there was this part where Hoyt is drowning, and he thinks about this time when he was young and stupid where he jumped into a silo of, I think it was corn, maybe. I know not all of us have lived in the Midwest, but that is just such a terrifying thought, because silos are fucking huge. And I don't know like how often silos are filled to the top with something, but to be filled, there's got to be so much. I mean, to even have enough where Hoyt, what he does is he jumps into this silo full of corn, right? And sinks because it's a silo full of fucking corn. And that is so scary to me. I don't know why. It's like, it feels suffocating, like you'll never get to the bottom. Like, what if you get stuck? How will you breathe? Are you just inhaling corn kernels, like dried corn? And that's really scary. So that, and like really, I feel like that is the crescendo of my uncomfortableness with this book, is that, because that is really where he drowns, Cetus takes him over, and then the rest was not as interesting to me. The pacing got really slow. We spent a lot of time with Jordan, which I felt was really unnecessary. So it was like boring and not important, in my opinion. All in all, I was happy to get it over with at the end. I didn't really care for the characters, I guess, is what ended up happening. Especially once Jordan was involved. It was like, why is this guy even here? He's so boring. So I guess those are really my thoughts on Cruel Summer by Wesley Southard. I really enjoyed the beginning of it, but it really took a left turn and went in a direction I was not expecting at all, which some people might like. It did have a lot of ocean elements, but it didn't necessarily feel summery to me. It's just that it took place over Patrick's summer break, I suppose, like in the summer. But It didn't feel like hot and sticky, claustrophobic, can't breathe, it's too humid, I'm trapped in this place, which isn't like super, like that can happen also in the winter. It's just like one thing that I like about summer horror is sometimes you're trapped, which, you know, they kind of were. They really weren't supposed to leave where they were once they killed Hoyt. But I don't know. It's just personal, I guess. So those are my ramblings. I'd love to know what you guys thought about this. And even if your opinion is totally different than mine, I still, like, I want to hear it. That's why I did this. And I'd love to hear, like, why you liked it, why you didn't, why you thought it was just fine. You know, what you thought about the mythology part of this. If you felt like it truly was a good example of a summer horror book, I don't know, just tell me all your thoughts. I'd love to hear. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for reading. It makes me so fucking happy. In July, we're reading Until the Sun Comes Around, right, by Glenn Rolfe. So if you're able to get that, it is available if you buy it on ebook, paperback. I think that's it. So like I said, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Goodbye.